All right, so the very first thing we have to do is draw the grid on our paper. Now, the watercolor paper, the dimensions are 9 by 12, whereas the papers of your pets that I have printed out for you are 8.5 by 11, okay? So we're going to make this easy. These are full inches. Your 8.5 by 11 is almost, but not quite, okay? So we're just going to worry about these first, and then I'll show you what to do on the next one, okay? So make sure you're on the inches side of your paper. Inches side. I want you to go ahead and slide your ruler almost to the top. It should be 9 inches wide if you are measuring it correctly. Now, we need these little tick marks to be on the absolute very edge of this paper and very light, okay? So, once you get your 0 lined up, your 9 should also be lined up. As soon as you have verified that both of those are lined up to the edges of your paper, you will very lightly, the very edge of your paper, make the tiniest little tick marks at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 inches. When you are done marking those inches on this side, you are going to flip your paper around and do the same exact thing on this side. So get my ruler right next to the edge, make sure my 0 and 9 are lined up, and very lightly mark the very edge of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 inches. Okay, when you are done marking those inches, we need to mark the long sides, okay? The long sides should be 12 inches. So you're going to do the exact same thing on this side, but instead of lining it up at 0 and 9, you're lining your ruler up at 0 and 12 inches on the very edges, okay? Once they are on the very edges, you will still mark the whole inches that are in between the edges of your paper, okay? Mark them very lightly on the very edge. And you will do this to both of the long sides. The last part is the absolute most important, which is making your grid, okay? So you will be lining up your tick marks and drawing lines across on all of these inches to make your grid. However, do not hold your pencil like this. Is everybody looking? No, you're not. Now you are. Okay? Do not hold your pencil like this. Do not hold your pencil like this. Hold your pencil at the very end, okay, to make your light lines. These have to be 100% perfectly erasable. How you do that is with very little pressure. So when you're holding the back of your pencil, you will run your pencil across to connect those tick marks to make a line. Hold it at the very end. You should barely be able to see that line, but it should be visible. You can barely see mine, but they are visible. You should be making every single not tick mark, but line on your grid, holding your pencil at the very back. Okay, remember how I said this paper is not the right size? I have already centered your pets on this paper that I thought would be the best for this portrait project, okay? So the only thing you need to do is put it on there and try and center it on your paper that you've just drawn tick marks and grid lines on, okay? Now, I'm going to slide this down now that I have it centered so you can see what I'm doing, okay? Once you have your pet picture centered, your measuring has already been done for you. It is on your paper, which is a little bit bigger, okay? So the biggest thing is you want to make sure your paper does not shift, okay? So you're going to hold it in place. This one you can draw dark on, okay? And you are simply going to match your tick marks with the grid line. Be very careful not to draw accidentally on the back paper, which needs to be light. Okay? I'm going to carefully do that on the bottom as well. Okay? So mine kind of came apart, slid around. So I'm just going to line that up to where it's the same, and I have the same amount of space going down the whole side. It looks centered. And match my grid line. So as soon as you get the top and the bottom done, making sure that your lines are still in line on the top and the bottom, you will hold it in place and then also transfer those grid marks going along the long edges. Now that we have transferred all of the lines that we need, we don't need our actual watercolor paper at the moment. We are going to draw a grid now over the top of our pet pictures. This one we need to be dark. So absolutely make sure that your ruler is in the exact place and held very steady before you draw these lines, because if you go to erase it, what's going to happen? It will erase your picture, okay? So make sure that it is absolutely in the right place. You definitely want to make sure that you have a nice, sharp pencil for this as well, okay? Hold it steady and you're going to draw these dark.